if you love your pets as much as we love our pets, you're going to love this next segment. Hello there. You know, I love music, and there is a musical ring to our next guest. He is with Weruva, and Robbyne, our pet correspondent, is here to tell us more. Robbyne, tell us about Chris.
Well, Chris is with Weruva. They offer pet parents safe and healthy food options for their pets.
Excellent.
Yes.
And Robbyne, you've been working with us for a while now as our pet correspondent, bringing us all of these wonderful products. So if it's got the Robin Camille seal of approval, then we know it's good, right?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
so Chris, tell us about Weruva.
Yeah, so the first thing you might notice about Weruva is it's a little bit difficult to pronounce. It seems like it's a little strange. It's not a real word. Weruva, actually, the three first names of David and Stacy's adopted cats. And David and Stacy are our founders, and the cats are Webster, Rudy, and Vanessa.
Oh, okay.
And the story behind that is really very much the story of Weruva in general, which is, you know, they were coming home from a date. They were in New York at the time, and you know, Stacy, who's the heart of the company, came across a homeless cat and really couldn't say no, and took that cat up to their no cats allowed apartment, right? And did what all pet parents do at that point. Like, hey, you know, they're very nutritionally conscious people themselves. What should we be feeding this cat? And New York's a great environment to ask, so they asked everybody, vets, pet stores, anybody. And they generally came to the conclusion that, you know, cats, generally speaking, are, well, not generally, they are obligate carnivores. And so they need meat and water.
Okay.
And so they said, hey, what's a great way to do that, of course, is go to canned food. Very convenient to do that. And because they were so passionate about the nutrition that they were putting into their own bodies, they wanted to be equally passionate about the nutrition they were putting into their pets' bodies. And they adopted 2 other cats, and then when they're having those conversations, you know, they open all the cans up and say, well, you know, we're not calling these people liars, but I can't see where this says chicken and lobster, and I can't point to the chicken, and I can't point to the lobster. There's got to be a better way to do this.
It just looks like mush.
Yes.
Right. And they said, well, look, the best way to have your food look like food, make it out of food. And that is the history of Weruva in a nutshell, so to speak. And so the highest quality we can possibly do, we're very much what I would call an ingredient first company.
Yes.
And so that means we believe that the best nutrition, the best health results come from putting the best possible ingredients in the food, processing them as little as possible. In other words, if I only have to cut it, then only have to cut it. And then just put it in the can, and the response has been excellent.
The pain from losing a pet, as Robbyne knows, is that, you know, it's tragic.
Yes.
You know, you bring this love into your home, into your family, and you don't want to see them perish.
Right.
And a lot of it is because of poor nutrition and because they've had no other alternative except the yucky stuff. So now they've got great food, right, Robbyne?
Yeah.
Yes, great food. And how do you approach quality control? Because that's a major issue.
Absolutely. So we go to wherever it's being done the best.
Okay.
Right? And this really is human food with pet food vitamins in it.
Nice.
Right? And so Thailand makes unbelievably high quality food. In fact, their major national export, or one of them, is human food for the rest of the world, and that we get a tremendous benefit out of that. And the big one is quality control, because if you're going to ship food, and again, I'm being very Italian about this.
That's
right?
okay. We're away. Oh,
to
when the moon
everybody
hits
else,
your eye. Okay.
well, what do? You make it to the highest quality. You make it to the highest quality control, so
Correct.
everyone else will fall underneath that, and that's exactly what happens. And so in our case, there's 2. There's the EU, European Union, and also the BRC, which is the British Retail Consortium. And when you look at those, you know, of course, you have HACCP and ISO 9000, all that other stuff, but the standards are so demanding that the quality that you're left with is, in my opinion, second to none. I've actually been to our facility, and you can eat off the floor, off the walls. It's being cleaned all the time. There's shifts. It's extremely impressive to what they're doing there. It really is amazing. And the results speak for themselves. Like, I eat this food all the time.
Yeah, and I'm reading this, and this looks great. You
Yeah.
know, and this one's called Lamborghini.
That's right.
With
It's the
lamb
cheapest
and
Lamborghini
pumpkin.
on the market. Yeah.
and
yet most satisfying,
Right?
and will not burst into flames, so that's nice.
Yeah, you know, and it's nice, and it's a fun company. Robbyne was sharing with me, right? It's like an upbeat, positive company.
Yes, and you know what I like? You have the real ingredients.
Yes.
And I can pronounce everything in here.
Yep.
It's a big change of pace, because I think, and you know, one of the things that we had all spoken about really before we got here was, you know, one of the big challenges facing pet parents out there, and it is, the challenge, I think, is buying what you think you're buying.
Right.
Wow.
It's a very big challenge, and you know, there's a lot of examples that you can give. But for instance, one, AFCO, if you're pretty familiar with AFCO.
Yes.
So their job is to make pet food labeling easy to understand. And so they've got a series of definitions that help people understand what they're eating, and so, or what they're feeding. And a good example of that is the word chicken. Now, when you and I use the word chicken, we use it conversationally, but it is actually a legally defined term when it comes to pet food, and it means clean flesh with or without the accompanying skin and or bone. But there's not really a traditional grading process for that, if you will. So you might have more or less bone in your food and still be able to call it chicken, which is fine in one sense, but not so fine in the others, because you're like, well, where's my money going? How do I know? And of course, the lower the bone content, the better it is for urinary tract health. And I can actually give you a real-life example of how the difference between pet food labeling and people food labeling would kind of shock you.
Okay.
So, you go to the grocery store, let's say you're going to go buy some ground turkey, whatever it is, ground cheese, whatever you want. And so you say 97% lean, 93% lean. What that means is you know exactly how much is protein, how much is fat.
Correct.
But unfortunately, in the pet food world, it's a little bit different. You can put something on the front of your cover that says 96% meat. Now, what that's doing is subconsciously, it's cueing you into thinking, oh, I'm getting 96% protein, but actually, that's not so much the case. When you flip that can over and look at the label, it might say 10% protein, 10% fat. That sounds great. But the problem is that's done by weight, not by calories. And when you do that calorically, because fat's 2¼ times more calorically dense than protein is, when you run the calories out, all of a sudden that can looks like 50-50. Right, 10 and 10 is actually a lot closer to 66-33 or 66-34. And if you're in the grocery store and you're buying ground chuck that said 33% lean, you couldn't drop that thing fast enough.
Right.
But in the pet food world, you need to do a little bit more math to figure out what's actually happening in there. So we try to be very, very clear with exactly what you're getting.
And so you do that for them.
Absolutely.
You
can
make
tell
something
them.
that, right, like across the board, all of your products are sensible.
Yeah, and it makes sense.
And what, Chris, you bring?
Yeah, because I'm going to eat it.
You're going to eat?
I'm going to eat it.
All right.
Yeah, because, look, I mean,
We're going to the dogs,
that's
we're
right.
eating dog
That's
food.
right. Well, because, look, it's one thing, and we believe this very strongly, it's one thing to talk about quality control, and it's another thing to actually
Oh my gosh.
talk,
That's
believe what
chicken
you're saying.
soup? What is
Chicken
that
soup,
one?
that's right. I don't know if you
Chicken
guys can
soup?
see it.
See
I
it,
can
the chicken.
absolutely see it.
Because the thing is, we talked about things being made in,
Don't mind if I do.
Okay.
for the rest of the world to be eaten.
Sure.
If you were, let's say you were in Japan and you were going to buy chicken a la king or canned chicken, you'd very likely be buying the same thing except without the pet food vitamins in it. So that is when we say there's no difference, there's no distinction between, this is where the Weruva pet, and this is, no, it's all one thing. At the very end, they put the pet food vitamins in, and that's
And it smells like chicken.
That's right.
I was just going to say,
Because
that
it is
smells
just
good.
chicken.
It actually
goodness.
smells good.
Oh, thank you, dear. Oh, my goodness.
Good,
This
right?
is good.
Just without the salt.
Oh my gosh, you guys. Thank you. You know what, Chris, thank you for being here.
No, my pleasure, please.
And Robin, thank you for inviting Chris.
Oh, yes, honey.
Because
I
that's
love
all we
this.
want to do. We just want to help our audience and help their families and their
Yes.
fur babies.
Yes.
And all their kitty cats.
Yes, be safe and healthy.
Absolutely.
Wow. Wow.
Absolutely.
That's a first on Live It Up. We love it.
Yeah.
Weruva, okay? Weruva. It's the only name you need to remember. Thank you so much. And please keep your letters coming. We want to hear from you. You could go to their website. You can learn more. It's available